Commander Lisa Wright stood at the main window of Earth Defense Force Station Alpha, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing multiple red dots approaching the solar system. She had been in command of the station for 5 years, but this was different from any situation she had faced before. "Commander, the unknown objects have passed Neptune's orbit," Lieutenant Kevin Morris reported from his station. His voice was steady, but his fingers trembled slightly as they moved across the control panel. Lisa took a deep breath. "How many ships are we looking at?" "At least 50 large vessels, ma'am. They're in a formation we've never seen before." The room fell silent as more data streamed in. Earth had prepared for this moment for decades, but now that first contact was actually happening, everyone felt the weight of history on their shoulders. "Send the greeting package on all frequencies," Lisa ordered. The greeting package contained basic information about Earth and humanity, designed by the best minds in linguistics and anthropology. It was meant to be peaceful, non-threatening, and easy to understand. The response came faster than anyone expected. The main screen lit up with an image that made several officers gasp. The alien was tall, with gray-blue skin and multiple eyes arranged in a circular pattern. When it spoke, the universal translator kicked in with only a slight delay. "Primitive species of Sol system," the alien began, its tone dripping with contempt. "I am Supreme Commander Zixtal of the Zarkax Empire. Your system now belongs to us. Surrender immediately or face extinction." Lisa's jaw tightened. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. "This is Commander Lisa Wright of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful dialogue, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Defend yourselves? With your primitive technology. You haven't even mastered basic quantum shielding. Your weapons are chemical projectiles and crude nuclear devices." Ambassador Peter Martinez stepped forward. He had arrived at the station just weeks ago, preparing for possible first contact. "Supreme Commander, perhaps we could discuss this. Humanity has much to offer in peaceful exchange." "The only thing you have to offer is your submission," Zixtal replied. "To demonstrate our power, we will destroy your research station near Neptune. Consider it a mercy, a small demonstration instead of immediate annihilation." Before anyone could respond, one of the alien ships broke formation and fired a bright beam of energy at the remote research station. The explosion was visible even from Earth's orbit, a bright flash that marked humanity's first casualty in an interstellar war. But something unexpected happened during that demonstration. Chief Engineer Alan Phillips, who had been quietly analyzing the attack, noticed something crucial. He rushed to Commander Wright's side, his tablet displaying complex readings. "Commander," he whispered urgently, "their weapons may be advanced, but their shield technology has a major flaw. The energy signature shows regular fluctuations at specific frequencies. It's like they never considered certain basic laws of physics could be weaponized." Lisa glanced at the data while keeping her face neutral for the alien on screen. "Explain later," she whispered back. Then, louder, "Supreme Commander, we request 24 Earth hours to consider your demands." The alien commander made that laughing sound again. "You have 12 of your hours. Use them to prepare your surrender. Any military action will result in immediate retaliation." The transmission cut off. As soon as the screen went dark, the command center erupted into activity. Lisa turned to Alan. "Tell me everything you found, no matter how small the detail." Alan connected his tablet to the main display. "Their shields are based on quantum field manipulation, very advanced stuff. But they're completely ignoring basic wave mechanics. It's like they're so focused on the complex solution, they've forgotten the simple ones could hurt them." Lisa called an emergency meeting with Earth's military leadership. Within an hour, the station's conference room was packed with officers and scientists, both in person and via secure hologram. Alan's discovery sparked a fierce debate about how to use this information. "What if we modify our old radio telescopes?" suggested Dr. Mary Thompson, a physicist who had been working on defense systems. If their shields ignore basic wave patterns, we might be able to use simple radio waves to disrupt their communications. Better yet, Alan added, we could potentially overload their shield systems with concentrated broadcasts. They're so convinced of their superiority, they haven't protected against simpler forms of attack. Lisa looked around the room. They expect us to either surrender or try to fight them with our most advanced weapons. They don't expect us to think differently. She stood up, her decision made. We have 11 hours to come up with every possible way to use our primitive technology against them. Every wild idea, every crazy theory. I want to hear them all. The next few hours were a blur of activity. While the civilian governments prepared for possible evacuation scenarios, the Earth Defense Force worked frantically to prepare their countermeasures. Engineers modified old satellites, scientists reprogrammed radio telescopes, and military strategists developed new tactics based on Alan's discovery. 10 hours into their deadline, Lisa received another urgent report. The Zarkak ships were moving closer, but they were experiencing unexpected communication problems. Their quantum communications were being disrupted by what they probably saw as background noise, actually a carefully coordinated broadcast from Earth's network of radio telescopes. They're so arrogant, they never thought to shield against radio waves, Alan said, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Their advanced quantum communications are being scrambled by technology we've had for over a century. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Prepare to implement Defense Pattern Alpha. Let's show them what primitive humans can do. As the 12-hour deadline approached, the Earth Defense Force was ready. They had transformed their perceived weakness into strength. The Zarkak's empire thought they were facing a primitive species with outdated technology. They were about to learn that innovation often meant looking at old things in new ways. When Supreme Commander Zixtel's face appeared on the screen again, Lisa stood tall. The next few hours would determine humanity's fate, but they weren't going down without a fight. And thanks to human ingenuity, they had a real chance, not despite their primitive technology, but because of it. Your time is up, Zixtel announced. What is your answer? Lisa smiled, a gesture she knew the alien wouldn't understand. We have an answer for you, Supreme Commander, but we'll need to broadcast it on all frequencies to make sure you receive it clearly. She gave the signal, and Earth's defense plan began. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and it would show the galaxy that sometimes the simplest solutions were the ones your enemies least expected. Admiral Susan Carter looked at the gathered scientists and military leaders in the underground facility on Mars. The room was filled with some of Earth's brightest minds, all brought together for one purpose: to find new ways to fight an advanced alien empire. The good news is, our radio wave attack bought us time, she said, pointing to the large screen behind her. The bad news is, the Zarkaks will adapt. We need more innovations, and we need them fast. Dr. Kevin Ross stood up from his seat. He was wearing an old t-shirt with coffee stains, looking more like a college student than Earth's leading weapons designer. I think I have something, he said, walking to the front of the room. We've been looking at this all wrong. We don't need to match their technology. We need to use what we already have in ways they won't expect. He pulled up images of ordinary Earth technology on the screen. Mining lasers, construction equipment, weather control systems, even old television satellites. The Zarkaks have advanced so far that they've forgotten the basics, Kevin explained. They use quantum shields that can stop their advanced weapons, but they're not prepared for simpler attacks. It's like having an expensive alarm system that can stop skilled thieves, but can't detect someone walking through the front door. Dr. Mary Thompson raised her hand. She had been studying the data from the first encounter. I've noticed something about their ship design, she said. They're so focused on energy weapons that they have almost no protection against physical impacts. Their shields are tuned to stop plasma and laser weapons, not rocks. Admiral Carter leaned forward. Are you suggesting we throw rocks at an advanced alien fleet? Not exactly. Mary smiled. But what if we modified our mining equipment? The devices we use to break up asteroids could be turned into weapons. The Zarkax wouldn't expect it because it's too simple. Colonel John Baker, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. We could use the Mars mining facilities as weapon factories. We already have the equipment here, and the lower gravity makes it easier to launch things into space. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. The Mars base, originally built for scientific research and mining, turned into humanity's largest weapons factory. But these weren't ordinary weapons. Kevin led a team that modified mining lasers into ship-mounted weapons. Unlike the Zarkax's advanced energy weapons, these simple lasers operated on frequencies their shields weren't designed to stop. Mary's team worked on turning asteroid mining equipment into what they called rock throwers, machines that could launch pieces of space debris at incredibly high speeds. It's like bringing a slingshot to a laser fight, Kevin joked during one test. But sometimes the simple solution is the best one. They had some failures. The first prototype of the modified mining laser exploded during testing, and 3 rock throwers broke down before they got the design right. But with each failure, they learned and adapted. One day, while everyone was working, a junior engineer named Steve Palmer came running into the main lab. "Dr. Ross," he shouted, waving a tablet. "I think I found something. Remember how old microwave ovens could interfere with Wi-Fi signals? What if we could do something similar to their quantum communications?" Kevin looked at the data on Steve's tablet, his eyes growing wide. This could work. Their quantum communications are advanced, but they still follow basic physics. If we could create enough interference. They brought the idea to Admiral Carter, who immediately approved testing. They modified old communication satellites, turning them into what they called quantum scramblers. The devices weren't elegant or advanced. They just created lots of noise in the quantum field the Zarkax used for communication. Meanwhile, Colonel Baker's teams were having success of their own. They had turned the Mars caves into testing grounds for their new weapons. In one large cavern, they built a replica of a Zarkax shield based on the data they had gathered. "Fire the mining laser," Baker ordered during one test. The modified mining equipment, originally designed to cut through rock, fired a simple beam at the shield. As they had hoped, the beam passed right through, hitting the target behind it. Baker picked up his phone immediately. "Admiral Carter, the mining laser works. Their shields don't even detect it. We can mass-produce these from existing mining equipment." But their biggest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amy Lewis, a weather scientist, was watching old videos of lightning strikes when she had an idea. "Their shields are like an umbrella designed to stop rain," she explained to Kevin. "But what if instead of rain, we hit them with lightning?" They modified weather control satellites, turning them into weapons that could create focused electrical discharges in space. During the first test, the artificial lightning bolt completely fried the shield generator they were testing against. Admiral Carter called a meeting to review their progress. "In just 3 weeks," she said, looking around the room proudly, "you've turned mining equipment, weather satellites, and what amounts to space junk into weapons that can hurt the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. This is what human innovation looks like." Kevin stood up to give his report. "We have 4 main weapons ready for production: modified mining lasers, rock throwers, quantum scramblers, and what we're calling lightning strikers. None of them are as advanced as Zarkax technology, but that's exactly why they'll work. They're expecting super weapons. Instead, they're going to get hit with things their advanced sensors don't even register as threats." "How long until we can arm our fleet?" Carter asked. "We can start installing the weapons tomorrow," Colonel Baker replied. "The designs are simple enough that any engineering team can modify existing equipment. We don't need special factories or rare materials." Admiral Carter nodded, a small smile on her face. "The Zarkax think they're facing a primitive species that can barely leave its own planet, They're about to learn that sometimes being primitive means being more dangerous, not less. As the meeting ended, Kevin stayed behind to look at the prototype weapons. Each one was built from everyday technology, modified and repurposed in ways their creators never imagined. It wasn't pretty or elegant, but it would work. The innovation race wasn't over. They would need to keep developing new weapons and tactics. But for the first time since the Zarkax arrived, humanity had a real chance. Not because they had matched the aliens' advanced technology, but because they had found ways to use their own simple technology in ways the Zarkax would never expect. The next phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy that innovation wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about using what you had in the smartest way possible. Captain Daniel White looked at his ship through the space station's window. From the outside, it looked like any other cargo vessel, old, a bit rusty, and completely harmless. That was exactly the point. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" his first officer, Sarah Miller, asked. She was looking at the same ship, knowing what was hidden beneath its ordinary exterior. "The Zarkax expect warships," Daniel said. "They're looking for military vessels with obvious weapons. They're not looking for cargo ships carrying mining equipment." He smiled. "Especially not mining equipment that's been modified to punch holes in their fancy shields." The plan was simple but clever. The Earth Defense Force had taken regular cargo ships and hidden their new weapons inside what looked like standard shipping containers. Each ship looked harmless to the advanced Zarkax sensors. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez had come up with the idea after studying old Earth naval battles. "The best warship," she had told the admirals, "is the one your enemy doesn't know is a warship until it's too late." Now, a fleet of these modified cargo ships was ready. They would be humanity's first real counterattack against the Zarkax. "All ships, report in," Daniel called over the radio. One by one, 15 cargo ships confirmed they were ready. Each one looked like it was making a regular delivery run to the outer colonies. Each one was armed with weapons the Zarkax wouldn't expect. "Remember," Daniel said to his crew, "we're just simple cargo haulers making our rounds. Nothing suspicious about that." The fleet moved out slowly, spreading apart as if they were heading to different destinations. The Zarkax patrol ships barely gave them a second look. After all, why would they worry about primitive cargo ships? Strategic Officer Christopher Mills watched from his command center as the cargo ships moved into position. "The Zarkax are so focused on looking for military threats," he said to his team, "that they've forgotten how dangerous ordinary things can be." The trap was set when a Zarkax battle group moved into the area. They were hunting for Earth warships, expecting to find military vessels hiding among the asteroids. Instead, they found what looked like scattered cargo ships going about their business. "Now," Daniel ordered when the alien ships were in position. The cargo ships suddenly changed course, moving with a speed that surprised the Zarkax. Shipping containers split open, revealing modified mining lasers and rock throwers. Before the alien ships could react, they were under attack from weapons their sensors hadn't even registered as threats. "Direct hit," Sarah called out as their mining laser cut through a Zarkax shield like it wasn't even there. The alien ship's crew had been so confident in their advanced shields that they hadn't even tried to dodge. Other cargo ships launched chunks of asteroid at high speed. The Zarkax shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against simple rocks moving at incredible speeds. Several alien ships took heavy damage before they even realized what was happening. "They're trying to call for help," Amy reported from her ship. "But our quantum scramblers are working. Their fancy communication systems are useless." The battle was short but effective. The Zarkax ships either retreated or were disabled. Not a single human ship was lost. But humanity wasn't done with surprises. While the Zarkax were distracted by the cargo ship attack, other plans were in motion. Earth forces had been busy hiding weapons in asteroid fields. They placed modified weather satellites in what looked like chunks of space rock. When Zarkak's ships passed nearby, the hidden devices would create powerful electrical discharges, space lightning that overwhelmed their shields. Project Trojan is ready, Christopher reported to command. The project had placed weapons in what looked like space debris. The Zarkaks would fly right past them, never realizing the danger until it was too late. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez had also developed new space combat maneuvers. The Zarkaks fight like their ships are invincible, she explained during a briefing. They don't dodge, they don't use cover, they just rely on their shields. We can use that against them. She trained Earth ships to use asteroids as both cover and weapons. Human ships would hide behind large rocks, then push them toward enemy vessels. The Zarkaks, not used to such simple tactics, often failed to react in time. It's like they forgot that physics still works, Daniel said after another successful ambush. All their advanced technology, and they can still be hit by a rock. The Zarkaks began to change their tactics, becoming more cautious. But this played into humanity's hands too. When the aliens slowed down to scan for threats, they made easier targets for the hidden weapons. They're learning, Christopher noted during a strategy meeting. But they're learning the wrong lessons. They're looking for more advanced weapons, trying to improve their scans for Earth military technology. They still haven't realized that their greatest threat is the simple things they're ignoring. The human fleet continued to adapt and improve their tactics. They learned to use the sun's radiation to hide their movements, knowing the Zarkak sensors had trouble seeing through solar interference. They planted fake debris fields that forced alien ships into ambush zones. One particularly clever trick involved using old space junk as bait. Earth ships would gather debris from old satellites and spacecraft, knowing the Zarkaks would investigate anything that looked like human technology. When the aliens moved in for a closer look, they'd find themselves surrounded by hidden weapons. The beauty of it, Annie told her crew after another successful mission, is that they keep expecting us to fight like them. They think we'll try to match their technology level. They don't understand that we're not even playing the same game. As weeks passed, the Zarkaks began to show signs of frustration. Their carefully planned conquest was being disrupted by what they saw as primitive tricks and simple weapons. Their reports back to their empire were filled with confusion about how such an inferior species could cause them so much trouble. They're starting to fear us, Daniel said as he watched another Zarkak ship retreat from what looked like a harmless cargo vessel. Not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because we're making them question everything they think they know about warfare. The guerrilla phase of the war was working better than anyone had expected. Humanity had turned its technological disadvantage into an advantage, using simple solutions that bypassed the aliens' advanced defenses. The Zarkaks had come expecting an easy conquest of a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to fight by their rules. The next phase of the war was approaching. The Zarkaks would either have to adapt to humanity's way of fighting, or they would have to retreat. Either way, humanity had proven that innovation wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about using what you had in ways your enemy never expected. Major Elizabeth Cooper stood in the darkness of her stealth ship's bridge, watching the massive Zarkak supply base through special cameras. Her ship, painted with light-absorbing materials and covered in modified radio dishes, was invisible to the aliens' advanced sensors. "Status report," she whispered, though she knew the Zarkaks couldn't hear them through space. "All systems dark," replied Lieutenant Steve Rogers from his station. "They still think we're just another piece of space debris." The human ship wasn't using any fancy stealth technology. Instead, they had covered it with materials that absorbed radar and light, similar to what Earth scientists had used on stealth aircraft centuries ago. The Zarkaks, looking for advanced cloaking devices, never thought to check for such simple camouflage. Dr. Catherine Bennett's information was right, Elizabeth said, looking at the data on her screen. The Zarkaks are totally dependent on their biotechnology. Every ship, every base, every weapon. They're all partly alive. Catherine had made this discovery by studying damaged Zarkak's equipment. While other scientists looked for advanced technology, she noticed something simple. Their machines needed food. The aliens had merged biology and technology so completely that their ships were like living things. "Begin Operation Virus," Elizabeth ordered. Her ship released thousands of tiny capsules into space. Each one contained a modified version of the common cold virus. Catherine had discovered that while the virus was harmless to humans and normal machines, it could make Zarkak's biotechnology very sick. Meanwhile, near Saturn, Rear Admiral Paul Davidson prepared the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled. But these weren't normal warships. Each vessel had been modified based on everything they had learned about fighting the Zarkaks. "All ships, check in," Paul called over the radio. One by one, the fleet reported ready. Some were cargo ships hiding powerful weapons. Others were old satellites turned into weapons platforms. Many were simple ships carrying large chunks of ice and rock from Saturn's rings. "The Zarkak's main fleet is approaching," reported his tactical officer, Linda Martinez. "They're in formation, shields at full power." Paul smiled. "Just like we expected. They still think their shields make them invincible." The battle began when the Zarkak's fleet entered Saturn's ring system. They were looking for human warships, expecting a traditional space battle. Instead, they found themselves in the middle of a trap. Modified weather satellites hidden in chunks of ice created powerful electrical storms. The lightning wasn't strong enough to destroy the alien ships, but it disrupted their shields just long enough for other attacks to work. "Launch the ice bombs," Paul ordered. Human ships started throwing chunks of Saturn's rings at the alien vessels. The ice, moving at incredible speeds, didn't show up as weapons on Zarkak sensors. Their shields, still recovering from the electrical attacks, couldn't stop the simple frozen water from damaging their hulls. At the same time, Elizabeth's stealth mission was working. The modified cold virus was spreading through the Zarkak supply base, making their biotechnology ships and weapons malfunction. "Their ships are getting sick," Catherine reported from her lab on Earth, watching the data come in. "The virus is giving their biotechnology the equivalent of a fever. They can't maintain their shield strength." The Zarkak's fleet began to show signs of confusion. Their formation broke apart as ships tried to dodge the ice chunks, something they had never had to do before. Some vessels started moving erratically as the virus affected their control systems. "Now," Paul ordered, "bring in the mining ships." A group of modified mining vessels emerged from hiding places in Saturn's rings. Their simple but effective weapons, which the Zarkak still hadn't found a defense against, began targeting the alien ships' weakened points. The battle turned into chaos for the Zarkaks. Their advanced sensors, confused by simple camouflage and space debris, couldn't tell which threats were real. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against ice and rock. Their biotechnology ships, infected by a primitive Earth virus, weren't responding correctly to commands. "They're retreating," Linda announced after several hours of fighting. "The entire Zarkak's fleet is pulling back." The humans had won their first major battle against the alien fleet, not with advanced technology, but with ice, rocks, and the common cold. Back on Earth, Dr. Catherine Bennett was already working on the next phase. The Zarkaks made a huge mistake when they merged biology and technology, she explained to Admiral Carter. They thought it made their ships more advanced, but it also gave them all the weaknesses of living things. They can get sick. They need food. They get tired. The Admiral nodded. "And we can use that against them." News of the victory spread quickly through the human fleet. Elizabeth's stealth mission had shown they could sneak past Zarkak's defenses. The battle at Saturn proved they could defeat the alien fleet in open combat. Catherine's discovery of the biotechnology weakness gave them a way to attack the enemy's infrastructure. The Zarkaks made 3 big mistakes, Paul told his officers during the victory briefing. They thought advanced technology always beats simple technology. They forgot that simple solutions often work better than complex ones, and they never imagined that a primitive species could use their own advancement against them. As the Zarkak's fleet retreated to regroup, humanity prepared for the next phase of the war. The aliens would probably try to adapt, to find ways to counter human tactics. But that was fine. Humans were good at adapting too. "We're not winning because we're stronger or more advanced," Elizabeth said to her crew as they prepared for their next mission. "We're winning because we're proving that innovation isn't about having the best technology. It's about using what you have in the smartest way possible." The war wasn't over, but the turning point had been reached. The Zarkaks could no longer dismiss humans as primitive or weak. They had learned the hard way that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most dangerous, and that underestimating humans was a serious mistake. The next battles would be even harder as the Zarkaks adapted to human tactics. But humanity had shown that they could fight back effectively against a more advanced enemy. They had turned their perceived weakness, their primitive technology, into their greatest strength. General Richard Taylor stood on the bridge of Earth's new flagship, looking at the holographic display of the solar system. Red dots showed the remaining Zarkak's forces gathering for what would likely be their final attack. Blue dots represented Earth's ships, spread out in what looked like random positions, but was actually a carefully planned trap. "Are you sure about this plan, sir?" asked Captain Linda Hayes, his second in command. "It seems very risky." "The best plans usually are," Richard replied with a slight smile. "The Zarkaks have adapted to our previous tactics. They've modified their shields to stop our mining lasers. They've created antivirus programs for their biotechnology. They're even watching for cargo ships now. So we give them something new to worry about," Linda said, understanding the plan. Operation Lighthouse was humanity's boldest plan yet. They would use Earth's greatest nearby asset, the sun itself, as a weapon. Dr. Catherine Bennett had discovered that Zarkak shields had trouble handling sudden changes in radiation levels. This weakness was about to become very important. "All ships report ready," Linda announced. "The solar arrays are in position." Around the sun, humanity had positioned hundreds of modified solar panels. These weren't for collecting energy. They were for reflecting it. Each one could be turned quickly to direct solar radiation wherever they wanted. "The Zarkak's fleet is moving in," reported Officer Jack Perry from his station. "They're using their new formation, spread out to avoid mass attacks." Richard nodded. "Just as we expected. Begin Operation Lighthouse." Across the solar system, human ships began moving in what looked like retreat. The Zarkak's fleet, eager to finally defeat these troublesome humans, followed them toward the sun. "They think we're running out of tricks," Richard said quietly. "They think they've figured out all our simple solutions." Lieutenant Sharon Martinez led the first attack wing. Her ships carried what looked like normal weapons, but they were actually just decoys. Their job was to make the Zarkaks think they knew what was coming. "Enemy fleet is in position," Sharon reported. "They're spreading out their shields to maximum power, just like in the simulations." Richard gave the signal. "Light them up." Suddenly, hundreds of solar arrays turned at once. They caught the intense radiation from the sun and reflected it directly at the Zarkak's fleet. The alien ship shields, already spread thin to cover their wide formation, couldn't handle the sudden surge of focused solar energy. "Direct hits across their front line," Jack called out. "Their shields are fluctuating." There, shield failures reported on multiple ships. But this was just the first part of the plan. As the Zarkak ships dealt with the solar attack, Sharon's teams moved in for the real attack. "Begin boarding operations," Richard ordered. This was the part of the plan that had seemed craziest when it was first suggested. Humans would actually board the advanced alien ships, but they wouldn't use fancy technology to do it. They would use simple tools and basic physics. Sharon's team had developed what they called space hooks, simple grappling devices that could attach to a ship's hull. While the Zarkaks were busy trying to protect against high-tech attacks, Human ships simply anchored themselves to the alien vessels. Boarding teams away, Sharon reported. They're using the cutting torches now. The boarding teams carried simple plasma cutters, the kind used in Earth's shipyards. The Zarkaks, so focused on stopping advanced weapons, hadn't fought to protect against basic tools that could simply cut through their hull. Inside the alien ships, human teams moved quickly. They didn't try to understand or control the advanced alien technology. Instead, they used simple solutions, disconnecting power supplies, blocking cooling systems, and in some cases, just breaking things. "Sir," Linda called out, "the Zarkak ships are losing power. Their biotechnology systems are overheating without their cooling systems. They can't maintain their shield formation." The alien fleet began to break apart. Some ships lost power completely. Others tried to retreat but found their navigation systems weren't working. A few attempted to fight back, but without their coordinated shield network, they were vulnerable to even the simplest attacks. "Their flagship is hailing us," Jack announced. The main screen lit up, showing Supreme Commander Zixtal. The alien leader looked different now, less arrogant, more uncertain. "General Taylor," Zixtal said, "the Zarkak's empire wishes to discuss terms of surrender." Richard stood straight, his voice firm. "You came to our system believing we were primitive and weak. You thought our simple technology made us easy targets. Have you learned differently now?" "We have made errors in our assessment of human capabilities," Zixtal admitted. "Your species has demonstrated remarkable innovation. The Galactic Council will need to revise its classification of Earth." The surrender negotiations took several days. The Zarkaks had to agree to leave the solar system and recognize Earth as a sovereign power. More importantly, they had to acknowledge that technological advancement wasn't just about having the newest or most complex solutions. "The war is over," Richard announced to the assembled Earth forces a week later. "But our innovation won't stop. We've learned something important. There's no such thing as primitive technology. There are only primitive ways of thinking about technology." The victory celebration on Earth was massive. But in labs and workshops across the planet, scientists and engineers were already working on new ideas. They had learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in copying advanced alien technology, but in finding new ways to use what they already had. Dr. Catherine Bennett summed it up best during her speech at the victory ceremony. "The Zarkaks taught us an important lesson, though not the one they intended. They showed us that true innovation isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about having the imagination to use any technology in new and unexpected ways." The Galactic Council's official report on the war became famous across the galaxy. It read, in part, "The humans of Earth demonstrated that technological advancement cannot be measured simply by the complexity of one's devices. Their victory was achieved not through superior technology, but through superior innovation and adaptability." As Earth began to take its place among the galactic civilizations, they maintained their unique approach to technology and warfare. They continued to use simple solutions alongside advanced ones, always looking for unexpected ways to solve problems. "We're not primitive anymore," Richard told his staff during their final meeting. "But we'll keep thinking like we are, because sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. And sometimes the most powerful weapon is the one your enemy doesn't think is a weapon at all." The war had changed humanity's place in the galaxy, but more importantly, it had changed how the galaxy thought about technology and innovation. The humans had proved that it wasn't the level of technology that mattered most. It was how you used it.